Hello, friends. While today we are actually going to talk predominantly about negotiating a job offer, before I start on the topic, I would like to take a few minutes, a couple of minutes really, to answer a couple of questions that have been raised and which I think those people need answers to so that they can go ahead and plan about how to attend an interview. One of them, in fact, mentioned that she has an interview this coming week itself. And then I shall continue with today's topic. So there were three questions that I was specifically asked, and I'm going to address only three of them. I'm not going to take too many other points. The one of the things that I have been asked is that if you are running late for an interview, what do you do? The first thing is, as I said in my last episode, you should not be late because being punctual is not only a sign of respect for the interviewer, but also shows that you are reliable and can be trusted. But if you are late due to unforeseen circumstances beyond your control, inform them ahead. If you are aware that you're going to be late, inform them ahead that I am going to be late so that they can also adjust their schedule and not waste their time waiting for you. And once you reach there, once you're in front of the interviewer, begin by apologizing for your tardiness and explain why you were late. Explain the truth as far as possible, but explain well, explain calmly, and explain apologetically. And after the interview, when you send in the thank you note that I was talking about, again in that note, apologize for being late and tell them that what had happened and why you were late. The second question I've been asked is that I frequently lose my nerves during an interview. What can I do about it? I agree with you, interviews can be big anxiety inducers. They really make you anxious, and it is not uncommon for people to lose their nerves. And if you do draw a blank or are not able to properly articulate your answer to some of the things, and you start fumbling and you realize that, okay, my nerves have given up and that they're not supporting you right now, I don't think there is a challenge in telling the interviewer that I need to pause for a minute. And can I take a couple of minutes to just get my nerves back again? I'm sure the interviewer will appreciate that honesty and will be more than happy to oblige you. And as a long-term solution to avoid such situations happening in the future, do make it a point to have mock interviews where a friend or a family member interviews you very much how they would interview somebody at a job interview so that you get some practice. And the last question I had been asked is that I had botched up an interview. And at that time, of course, I gave up and I didn't do anything. But what does happen if I botch up an interview? How do I recover from that? Whenever you realize that you botched up an interview, do some soul searching after the interview. Do a debrief on yourself, so to say. And then the thank you note that we've been talking about, use that note as an opportunity to convey what you had botched up in the right manner, in the right words. And what is very important, and clearly the person who sent me this question is saying, don't go on and on and on thinking about that botched interview, because that will make you botch up the next interview also. Relax, chill, calm your nerves, and start preparing for the next one. Whatever it is that you botched up, pay special attention to that. Focus on that so that that kind of a situation doesn't arise. But keep your job search on. You do not stop. Having covered these three questions that I have been asked specifically, I'm sure you're all doing great. And the questions that are coming to me shows that you are getting the grasp of what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to prepare you for. So having finished the job interview successfully, we go on to the next stage, and which is what this entire episodes are all about, and that is getting the job offer. But as is human nature, or as Pepsi would put it, ye dil mange more. We always wonder if we are getting the best deal and whether it is possible to get something better. Can we negotiate better terms? And by and large, from so many people I have met, I have never been to a job interview, so to say, so I'm a little different in that respect. But by and large, so many people I've met are very hesitant, scared, and worried about negotiating a job offer. And there are many reasons that they give. But at the end of the day, I have realized that there is only one primary reason why they do not want to negotiate. And that reason is that they're afraid that the job offer may be withdrawn and they will be left without an offer. And this is especially so in the case where that person only has that one job offer. If you have multiple job offers, you can take a chance, you can take a risk and say, okay, not this, the other one may not be as good a company, blah, 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 but I'm not going to be on the roads. But that is not always the case. And therefore, people being scared is justified. But let me tell you, research has also proved that this feeling, that this concept that you have got stuck in your mind is wrong. After interviewing plenty of interviewers, that research had shown that most interviewers do not look at withdrawing a job offer if somebody negotiates, as long as the negotiation is done in a right manner, in a proper manner. So now we are going to talk about what would be the proper manner in which you should negotiate. Now, what are the typical things that one wants to negotiate about? First and foremost, a better salary. Everybody talks of a better salary. Nowadays, another popular negotiating topic is flexible hours, job flexibility, okay, and partial or total work from home. A lot of people ask for various benefits like healthcare, a better retirement plan. These are real long-term thinkers. And other kind of things which are maybe personal requirements, but for them that would make that job offer far more attractive. But as I said, we hesitate. But don't do so. As I told you, research proves that you don't need to hesitate and get scared. But always remember a few things when you start negotiating. The first one is that for each topic or each request that you are putting in, think of and try to define what would be a win-win situation so that the interviewer also does not feel that he is giving out to you and everything that you have demanded. Be prepared to negotiate and reach a middle ground where he and you both feel that, okay, that has been a good deal. Before going for negotiations, you should definitely research the industry as well as the job profile. What are the norms for salary and various other benefits that you are going to want to negotiate about? You don't ask something that is not normal in the industry. Stretching it a little bit, you could get away with it if your JV really says that, yes, this is good, if your personal value proposal does say that. And the easy way to find out information on all this, what are the salaries for that kind of a job, and various other things, ask friends, ask mentors if you have one. Ask others who are working in the industry. And if you don't know anybody working in the industry, ask friends of friends. Ask your friends to connect you to their friends who are in that industry, if at all possible, and check with them what are the industry norms. And all this will automatically make you more professional when you are negotiating because you have data, you have an understanding of what is normal. And therefore, when you make your demands, you are not going to be abnormal. And always remember one thing, which is very important. Most people I have spoken to do not want to negotiate anything except flexibility, and that too mainly in the case of women, and mainly when they have to drop their child, pick up their child, blah, blah, blah. But remember, salary alone is not what you negotiate. As I said, there are so many other things. Better health plan. There are plenty of things you can negotiate about. We might look at some of them. So ask for perks. Any interviewer, any organization is more willing to give you that than just a salary bump. Because a salary bump, even for them, has repercussions amongst the other employees. So you can ask things like a more flexible joining date. You are in an old job, it's going to take you 2-3 months to do a proper handover, which is what you want to do. You don't want to shut doors or move away in a bad situation. So negotiate on the joining date. Demand a joining bonus, especially if that company is asking you to join right away. They might cut 1 month's salary. Demand bonus. Demand 3 months. Why not? They'll negotiate. Demand vacation time. A lot of people want vacations at particular times, especially if they have children who are going to school. You can demand that. You can negotiate that. Flexible work hours. As I said, you have to drop your child, you have to pick up your child, you have to take care of your parents, blah, blah, blah. There can be so many situations that would want you to have more flexible work hours. And depending on the job profile, that's very possible. Demand a performance bonus. I have always done very well with this. Ask, and this is very important, which most people never speak of. Ask for a job title that is going to boost your resume. Think of the future and work on it. When you're preparing all the things that you want to negotiate or discuss or request, from those things, define what are the negotiables and what are the non-negotiables. Because non-negotiables are something that are not going to be discussed or not going to change from what you are asking. Okay, maybe things like I will not work overtime because you have to get out by 5, reach home by say 6, and look after your children, train them, teach them, help them with their homework the next day, blah, blah, blah. So many things, cook for the family, whatever else it is. So you have to make sure what is negotiable and not. You may not want to ever work weekends. Tell them from the beginning. I know a colleague of mine in my job who used to do that. She refused to work on Saturdays and she never did. I mean, she did when it was the same because she was a workaholic at the end of the day. Start with the negotiables because then you are rolling out on a positive note. And after you make the ask, after you raise your request, I'm not calling it a demand because we are not demanding anything, you're negotiating something. Make the ask and then listen attentively. He might be explaining why it is not possible, and you need to understand that. So listen attentively to what response they give you. And while doing all of this, think strategically so that when they are telling you something, you can frame a response after he has finished talking, after you have heard him clearly, and then take the talk ahead. Focus on your goals, both work and life. They're not detachable. Okay. Focus on your goals and your aspirations that you have in life. And based on that, what is it that you need today so that what your goal is 5 years down the line can be achieved? At the end of the day, you might find that it's not a salary at all. It's just a job title, say. Okay, I'm just telling you things. So focus on your career goals and make sure that you are negotiating things that will help you to attain your goals, short-term and long-term both. Yeah, it can't be that you're only focusing on the long-term goals and short-term goals are going for a toss. No, you have to focus on both. And therefore, continuously check that when you are negotiating, when you are putting up a request, are your goals both work and life? Are you keeping the family in mind? Are you keeping the quality of life you want in mind? Are you keeping what progress you want to make in your career in mind? Keep all of that in mind and then start to negotiate. I read this some time back, and that article had very clearly put all the kinds of negotiations that you would want to do into 3 different categories. And this made a lot of sense to me. One is the asking negotiation, where you are asking for something that is common in the industry and common for the level or job profile that you have. All you have to do is to convince the person that you are justified in asking it and you deserve it. You are not asking them to do something special. And then there is the bending negotiation, where you are asking them to bend some of the norms so that you get more comfortable. And then there is the shaping negotiations, where you want to shape the organization or the process or the entire job profile. So there are these 3 kinds of negotiations. The first one is, as I said, a no-brainer, because you are not asking for something that is not conventional, so to say. But the other 2, bending and shaping, require a lot of thought and understanding. When it comes to bending negotiations, you need to justify your request and explain very, very clearly why you need that request that you are putting in and why they should accommodate you for that. But when doing all this, you have to make sure that you do not come across as arrogant or somebody who demands special treatment without proper justification. That's not good. When it comes to shaping negotiations, you have to think very hard. The first thing I would like to warn you is that I do not believe you should get into shaping negotiations unless you're joining a company at a very high level or you have already been in the company and know the processes. Because that decision, even for the interviewer to take, is a very difficult one and difficult for him to justify, just as it is difficult for you to justify and convince them. Okay, because it could include an organizational change, a process change of things that have been established and have been working well for the company. And always when you're demanding a shaping change, it automatically implies that you are taking a leadership role and you don't deserve it all the time. It typically involves team support, other teams, not only your team. It supports, it needs people who will advocate for you. And that is why I said this shaping negotiations are better when you have already worked in the company for some time. Okay, so these are the 3 kinds of negotiations. Eliminate and reduce ambiguity on what, how, and whom. You must know what you are asking, very clearly understood it. If they ask to explain, you should be able to explain it like this. How? How do you expect them to react? And how will you, at the end of the day, implement that request? And with whom to negotiate? How will you negotiate and whom to negotiate with is very important. Maybe there are some things which just the interviewer may not have. It may be way above his pay grade, something that you're asking. So you have to be prepared to explain to him. Let him come back to you and you might have to explain it again to somebody else. As I said, prepare a list of what is negotiable and non-negotiable. What is negotiable is okay, keep discussing it, as I said, calmly, quietly. But what is non-negotiable, stick to what you want. Because if you don't get that and you even join the company, you are not going to be very comfortable. So define them clearly. Whenever you make a list, sit down and talk to everybody you can, and Google also on what is the general things about the topics that you have raised. Gather information on all the negotiation terms that you have set. And when negotiation in existing jobs, it always helps to use your relationships, your team's relationship, your other teams with whom you have interacted, advocates who will support the idea that you have, allies who will help you to implement it, because all of this information, when you give it to the interviewer with whom you're talking about this, is going to make a big difference. Always be likable. I think I told you this last time. Understand the constraints of the interview. As I said, it may be above his pay grade. He would have to refer to somebody else. And when you prepare all this, make sure that you are going to be able to justify every single demand that you make. And when they tell you something after you have raised the demand, listen. Their intent is not to corner you, but you have to understand what they are saying. Don't just go by the words, go by what he is trying to convey to you. Okay? Whenever negotiating, negotiate an entire deal. Don't negotiate one point at a time. Think of it as a whole package and negotiate. Okay, so negotiate all the components. Don't negotiate one component today and another in the next meeting. No, negotiate, because you have to make sure you get the best package. Okay, negotiate with intent and with an open mind. Don't go with a closed mind saying this or no. It doesn't work that way, except in the non-negotiables, but they have to be very, very justifiable. Keep your mind cool at all times. Keep the situation in mind. Keep that person's status and his own mindset in mind. Don't issue ultimatums. Okay? Yes, as I said, in the case of non-negotiables, it's different, but otherwise don't issue ultimatums. And stay at the table. Don't say, okay, forget it. No, that's not the way it works. And maintain a proper perspective and attitude all throughout the negotiations. So, having said this, we now know that salary is not the only thing. Keep that in mind. That's very important. And when you're negotiating a salary also, don't accept the first offer. They expect you to negotiate. You ask for more than what you really want, because they will also negotiate with you. Okay, so depending on all this, played by this thing. Now that you have got all this, and I believe that you will negotiate a deal that is great for you. Next session, we will talk about joining the job and how you will settle in. Thank you. Have a great day. Any comments? I look forward.